What conference do
So
we want to
scared.
start with?
I guess we could start out west. I think we kind of already alluded to it. You guys already
Yeah.
said that you had
We'll go from
Utah
left
one.
to
I
right.
also have Utah one. So I
Yeah.
think that's kind of like
So
a
we're gonna
nice.
start top down, right? And we're just gonna go like where we're different, kind of like the top 10 for centers in a way.
Sure.
Same
Yeah.
format?
I think we could just go 1, 2, 3, and we each say who we have, or do we
Right, that's
want
what
to
I'm
do it
saying.
like
So
the
like we
yeah?
like you
Or
say your
what if we just
two.
do what if we do from the bottom? I guess we already spoiled Utah, but what if we go from the bottom to then kind of like
I feel like
Okay.
it's easier top down though, because like those are the teams that we really want to talk about. Because like who cares
Okay,
about the
fine.
bottom?
Who cares about the
Okay, okay.
playoff berth?
I'm just saying, like
The
Okay,
sometimes.
okay.
PGs.
Fair enough.
All right, so we all had Utah, so that was pretty
Yeah.
easy. I guess I'll kick it to you, Manny. Who do you have at number
I had Denver. I
Okay.
had Denver at number 2. I'm expecting that big jump from Michael Porter that I mentioned, and they still have a great team. They didn't lose, or they lost JaVale McGee, which I guess you can say is whatever. But not only that, but they brought back Will Barton. They brought back JaMychal Green, who I wasn't sure they were going to be able to, and he was an underrated player for them. But they brought back Austin Rivers, who was also a good contributor for them off the bench. My favorite move that they did was they added Jeff Green. I think he was huge for Brooklyn last year as being a stretch guy, and as well he's a good defender and all the bits, good rebounder as well. I think he's going to be huge for them. And so, like I said, they didn't lose much. They lost JaVale McGee. They brought back the same guys that have been there for maybe a couple years now, if not longer, like Will Barton, who's been there for a bit. And they added Jeff Green. So it was a perfect. They didn't have much to do. Denver didn't have much to do this summer, but the moves that they made were the right ones, in my opinion. And they didn't really shake up the roster too much to kind of throw things off their rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think Denver. So we want to say where we had Denver now. Easy.
Yeah. So where'd you have
yeah.
Denver?
Okay. So Denver, I had a little lower. I actually have them finishing at 3 again this year.
Okay.
So it's not too much of a difference. I don't think they're gonna make the jump to number 2. I really see defense being a problem for them. And I like the investment into MPJ, but I just don't think that this is the year that he's really gonna like blossom. But we'll see. I could be wrong about that. That being said, they still have a fucking amazing team. So I think they'll probably finish at 3.
Yeah, I have Suns at 2, instead. But for like if we're sticking to the Nuggets, I have them at 3. So like I don't know how we want to go in order for that.
I was gonna say, do we just go with who we each have at 2?
Yeah,
And then who
so
we each
let's
have
do
at 3?
that.
Because then I feel
Okay,
like we're
sure.
gonna be kind of bouncing up and down
Right.
the
Yeah,
table.
fair enough.
So at
Yeah.
1 we all have Jazz,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then number 2,
Groovy.
Benny, you had Denver. Leva, who'd you have at number 2?
I also have the Suns. Yeah.
I have the Suns at number 2,
Yeah.
and I guess we'll get into the Suns now. And I think it's because continuity in the regular season is just like the biggest factor. Like at least just how many guys have been on that team for so many years, and like you don't like when adjustments have to be made. You've already made that adjustment probably 2 seasons ago, so like it's seamless. They're gonna have a chip on their shoulders. They didn't lose much of their roster. My only concern, at least, is how much will that team develop? Like, was that their ceiling? Was the finals what we saw in the finals the ceiling? Can they like get into another gear? DeAndre Ayton, can he be a defender in the paint that they need him to be? Can he be that guy? Chris Paul, is he going to lose a step? We keep saying that he's not going to lose a step, but again, he's going to lose burst. In the finals, we saw it. He didn't have that same mid-range ability movement. Sorry, Benny, that he used to have.
Devastating.
He showed it throughout the playoffs, and then the finals it just disappeared until the last game. So like, I'm concerned about that, but I think continuity is even bigger factor than that. So I have Suns at 2. Who'd you guys have at 3?
Mike, do you want to go first?
So 3, I had Denver. So my top 3 for this upcoming season is the same top 3 as it was last season in the West. So it's Utah, Suns, Denver.
Okay, so easy. Did you have Denver at number 3?
I had Denver number 3.
Okay, so I had Phoenix at 3. What were the differences that you guys saw that made you want to put Denver ahead of Phoenix? And then I could say what differences did you see that made you want to put Phoenix ahead of Denver? And then I could kind of say why I like Denver a little bit more.
I just think another year of Chris Paul and Devin Booker getting better, and Monty being there again. Like I think there was some issues maybe with Monty like towards the beginning of the year, but I think that'll probably get ironed out, and that can lead to maybe a couple more games better that they finish. So I don't see a big difference between the two teams, to be honest, but
Yeah.
I just like the leadership of Chris Paul and Devin Booker again, versus Jamal Murray maybe has injury concerns. He always kind of gets off to like a slow start. Um, and last year he really didn't get the chance to have that awesome second half that he did 2 years ago. So that, those kind of differences, I think they're minor, but I think, that kind of leads to Phoenix finishing just a little bit better.
Yeah.
How
I can't
is that?
act like I'm confident about like having Phoenix ahead of Denver. It's not like I wasn't okay. Like, it's not like I'm like, yeah, Phoenix is better than Denver.
Mhm.
Like, I don't see it like that. I think it's very dependent on how Jamal Murray comes back. Like Leva said, he is a perennial slow starter every season. I would know. I had him in fantasy a while back, not last
Yeah.
year, but a couple years ago, I'm pretty sure, or at least in another league.
Mhm.
Slow starter.
Yeah,
Takes
and he really
years.
came on the scene in the bubble. You know what I mean? It wasn't like
Yeah,
that's when the conversation started about him being like a maybe he's a superstar, whatever, a star.
right.
But
And
he
he was on
really hasn't
track.
shown it. He was on track, but he just hasn't shown it for like consistently for so long.
Right.
So
I think
I
he would have
we
done
still
it
need to
last
see it.
year until that injury because he
Yeah.
was averaging like 21 points on 40% shooting from three and 48 from the field.
Mhm.
So he has that ability again, but we don't know about the injury. And then I guess while he's injured, I'm worried that a lot of the burn's going to be put on Jokic again. Because Jokic only had to carry after the first 48 games that Murray was there. Once Murray got injured, then it was okay for him to carry because you just finish out the regular season, less games, he can do it. Doing that in the beginning is going to be a lot harder. I don't know if MPJ is already at that level of being the second guy. And then I look at the rest of the roster, and yeah, the roster looks good in terms of like a playoff roster. But how confident am I in an Austin Rivers, a Jeff Green during the regular season? How confident am I in a Monte Morris, which, yeah, he doesn't turn the ball over, but like,
As a starter, right? He's probably going to be
right.
starting.
And then I'm thinking, like, who else do they have? JaMychal Green's a nice piece, but like, I don't like besides those two guys, the other guys will chip in, but I can't consistently count on them to chip in. Which I guess is like the
Gary
reason
Harris
why
healthy again.
Gary Harris is in Orlando, dude.
Oh, that's right. He's not even there anymore.
Yeah.
I guess that Aaron Gordon, they need Aaron Gordon to step up a bit.
Yeah, Aaron Gordon would be a better piece than the rest of the guys I've mentioned. I don't know. It's just like a roster that like I don't know if I trust it for a long period of time. For a short window, sure, but like a long period without like again, if Jamal Murray comes back and
he's
plays
supposed to
even
come
up to
back by the All-Star break.
right, so like if he's averaging 18 by the end of the All-Star break, I don't think they'll move up in the standing necessarily to like number 2, but they'll be a better team than the Suns in the playoffs. So like,
yeah,
again,
fair.
regular season doesn't mean I think that team is better than the other. I just think that's how it's going to shake out in the regular season. And we'll get into who we think wins the championship and all that. But like, if you told me between Nuggets and Suns, who I think has a better chance of making finals, I'm picking the Nuggets. But yeah, that's why I had the Suns ahead of the Nuggets.
So we kind of have similar reasons. I just kind of, I guess, flipped it on the team that I chose to be more worried about, I guess. And I totally understand the Jamal Murray points that you guys brought up. Obviously, I agree that they're going to miss him for however long he's out. If he's coming back until February, that's like 4 or 5 months that he's going to be out. And they're going to miss him, obviously. I think that, for at least for this first half of the season, I just think more Jokic on the ball is a good thing. And obviously coming off of MVP season, I just think he'll be able to do a little bit more for them. Not that Jamal Murray takes away from Jokic's game or that he hurts him in any way. That's not the case. I just think it's going to be a good thing for the team. It's not like it's going to be something that he's going to have to sustain for the entirety of the season, because then that's going to be, he gets to the playoffs and he's gassed. But we talked about the MPJ jump that we're all expecting. The boat wasn't rocked in any way aside from the Jamal Murray injury in a way. I think Aaron Gordon, now that he's been, because remember Aaron Gordon got traded at the trade deadline, so he hasn't even spent a full season with the team yet. I think now that he's had that second half of the season, he had the playoff run with them, his first ever playoff run as a player, as a professional player, and he's had the offseason with them to train. I think he'll do more than the 10 points that they gave him. I'm pretty sure they also just extended him to a pretty big contract, so they're going to be expecting big things out of him. I think I think they'll be good enough for the second, and then when Jamal Murray comes back, it'll just be icing on it. And with the Phoenix Suns, we talked about, you guys even mentioned it, how Chris Paul looked gassed in the finals, how he almost carried him to the finals, but then we get to the finals and the guy looks half of what he was in the conference finals and the conference semifinals.
Yeah, he was definitely not 100%.
So I think that the Suns are gonna So I think the Suns are gonna kind of look to do kind of a LeBron treatment with this guy, and maybe he sits out back to backs. Maybe are they doing a full 82 game season? I don't even know if they're doing that right now.
Yeah, it's still supposed to be full 82, no?
Full 82. Okay, so back to the full 82.
I haven't heard any different.
I could see Chris Paul. I don't see Chris Paul getting more than like maybe 65 games this season. Yeah. And then we'll see what the record is in that point. But that's like 17 games. I could probably see them go 12-5 or something, which is fine. But maybe it's more games that they would have won with Chris Paul, and that might be the difference, because I do think it's going to be tight. To you guys' point, I do think it's going to be tight between those two.
So just to clarify, then, you have more faith in a Denver team without Jamal Murray to get enough wins before he comes back, and then you're saying that they'll be ahead of the Suns, and then when Jamal Murray comes back, that's gonna.
I don't know if they'll be ahead. I don't know if they'll be ahead by the time he comes back.
Right.
Because like I said, I do think it's going to be close.
Yeah, okay. I think what Benny's saying really is like it comes down to resting Chris Paul versus like the MPJ jump, right? So those two factors, you know, and you and I already think that those teams are really close as it is. So it's like those again. It's like it's going to be in the margins, right? So if MPJ does make that jump and Chris Paul does sit, then that could be the difference.
Yeah, because we're also going to be expecting more from Aiden, and we don't know if we're going to get that. And Easy was talking about, you know, is this their ceiling?
I don't know if I'm going to get more from Aiden personally.
Yeah, right, exactly. I don't think so.
Are we going to get more from Chris Paul?
It'll be interesting. They're two teams. Yeah, exactly. They're two teams that are in like very similar place in the West, where you know, I don't think anybody's going to pick them to win this year, but you know, they have a good chance. We'll see. Totally. So we'll just move on. So I think that's our top three set. It's we all have the same three teams in the top three. Yeah. So number 4, I'm going with the Lakers at 4. I think they finished much better than they do last year. You know, health, being able to rest LeBron. You know, Russell's gonna win them a lot of regular season games, so I won't belabor it too much. But I think the Lakers just finished a lot better than they did last year, so I'm going with them at 4. What about you?
Yeah, I went Lakers at 4. I don't see a universe where I don't see a universe where, like, again, they're gonna have to figure it out in the beginning, but I don't think a team that talented, barring injury, of course, like, can afford to be less than a 4th seed. I don't think they can afford it. Like if they get any lower than that, you're talking about going to these other home courts. And like, I know like home court, whatever, like it's objective, like whether or not you believe home court matters. But I think it does.
They're playing the Clippers. It doesn't matter.
Well, right. Of course.
Right.
But I just see it takes always LeBron teams a while to get into the flow of things. And again, regular season doesn't really matter to LeBron. It's more about the playoffs. They're going to rest guys. They have to because of the team that they have and the age that they have on their team. But I think they're just too talented to be less than anything than 4. Like I could see them being ahead, like even 3 or 2, but just with the resting and the whole like day-to-day stuff, I put them at 4.
Yeah, they're probably going to have a slow start to the season. I feel like that's just always happens with these like super teams. But what about you, Benny? Who do you have at number 4?
I had the Clippers at 4.
Whoa. I don't know how I feel about that.
Whoa, that's crazy. That's insane. Well, okay. Well,
I had the Clippers at 4.
So actually, I have the Clippers at 5. So
I'm guessing Easy has them at 5 too.
Crazy. I don't think it's that crazy of a thing. I don't think Easy has them at 5.
It's definitely
a lot lower. But why don't you give your reasoning as to why you think the Clippers are going to finish better than the Lakers?
I think the Clippers are going to finish in 4th. I think Kawhi is expected to come back. I don't think it's going to be that late, like All-Star break late. I think it's going to be a little sooner. But so obviously, you know, you could imagine there's going to be ups and downs, but I don't think that there will be, just because the same reason at the beginning of the pod, me and Easy were talking about Kevin Durant carrying his form from the playoffs into the regular season. I'm expecting the same thing from Paul George. We made the pandemic P jokes, but that guy was a monster. At least in that second round of the playoffs. And I think that he can carry that over into the regular season. That team's been together for a while now. You know, we make the jokes that they never get anything done, that they don't know how to play together, this and that. but they've been together for a while, and I think they made some good moves. I don't think the Eric Bledsoe pickup was a bad pickup to replace Beverly and Rondo, who weren't giving you much. Justice Winslow, obviously an MVP candidate, and
most improved player for sure.
right. They kept Reggie Jackson, who's a good player. They kept Nick Batum, who was pretty useful for them. Kawhi Leonard is obviously going to be coming back at some point. And like we said, like I said, the core of that team is still together. I think Paul George will do enough to carry them. He's still an amazing player. All jokes aside, he's an amazing player. I think Paul George will do enough to carry them. And if you guys want me to get into the Lakers, I have concerns with how many players that they have added, how many players that were used to, maybe they're not used to it now, but at one point in the not so distant past were number one options in their teams and some of the best players in the world. I think it's going to take a while.
Before you keep going there, let's see your, I guess, easy POV on the whole situation. So who do you have at was it number 4, right? So who do you have?
Number 4 have the Lakers, but
okay.
Kawhi isn't coming back anytime soon, guys. It's a partial ACL tear. Like,
yeah, but that's been since like Jamal Murray time.
No, it was he was in the playoffs, wasn't he? Kawhi?
No, I don't think he played, did he?
I don't remember him playing the playoffs, but I do.
Yes, he was. He had to.
He
was playing against the Mavs.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
but still, didn't Jamal Murray get hurt? Did Jamal
Murray got injured in the regular season. He played 48 games.
All right,
not even close. And also, Jamal Murray was a full tear. Kawhi's a partial. But again, this is a man who has a history of knee problems. This man is not going to be rushed back, especially if they're hypothetically.
I don't think he's going to be rushed back, but I do think he has a chance to make it like around All-Star break time.
That's fine.
And I do agree with Benny. Like, I think the core of the team is still there outside of Kawhi for whatever the first 42 games he's going to miss or whatever.
I think it's a really good team for Paul George to carry.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see them crunching away in the regular season, and the teams below them, like I'm sure maybe I don't know if you have Dallas or Portland. I guess you probably have ahead of them, but like there's not. I mean, the Warriors, I get it, but I just don't think there's that big of a difference between those teams. And when Kawhi is there, and obviously assuming he's healthy, I think that could be a big difference in terms of how they finish post All-Star break. So
right, I agree with that, but the problem is with everything that we're saying is that there's 42 games or 50 before the All-Star break, and this is the lineup that you guys are rolling with right now. That at least in Benny's case, he's saying is going to be better than the Lakers. Okay, and I'm not saying you're wrong, Benny. I'm just saying the optics of this are not looking great for you. Okay,
he's saying you're wrong, Benny.
Paul George is your best player. Sick, great. That means your second option at scoring right now. And also let's not forget our last perspective of the Clippers was good because they made it deep in the playoffs. Reggie Jackson is not that guy for a long period of time in the regular season. He is not. Let's be real here. He's not. He's not a 20-point per game scorer jacking up threes with efficiency.
No one's asking him to be.
He can have. Yeah, I don't think.
No one's asking him to be.
I don't think he needs.
Okay,
to be,
well, he's gonna have to be because that's the second best player on their team as a scorer without Kawhi when he's not playing in the first half.
No, he doesn't. This team is pretty similar to the teams that Paul George actually had in Indiana, at least in my opinion, and where they were challenging for the number 1 seed every year.
Right. And he had guys on that team like David West averaging 19 a game. He had
David West comes back.
David West is back, baby. Lance Stevenson was averaging 16, 5 and 5. He had George Hill, who was okay defender, and then Roy Hibbert averaging 13 a game. Reggie Jackson is his second best scorer.
No, but
that's what's going to carry him for 50 games.
You can't say that those Pacers teams are anywhere near as deep as these. Like this.
I'm not saying deep. I'm not saying
exactly.
Deep.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what player he has that isn't averaging 19 points a game.
Of course it does.
I just think also when it comes to the West, when it comes to like the other teams in the West, like it's a much deeper conference.
Exactly. So you need a much deeper team, which is what he has. And Paul George is top 10 player in the NBA.
He needs a running mate. He has. This is who you're. And I'm saying it from the perspective of you're saying that the Lakers have too many pieces.
He plays better. He plays better without one. I think if he was on a team without even Kawhi, he would look even better. He would look better than he does.
I'm sure he could look good, but that doesn't translate to wins. My whole point is that
it does. For him, at least in his case.
I mean, not over the Lakers, in my opinion. I think
that's what I'm saying.
That's fine. That's fine. That's
wrong, but I think the Lakers are.
And I'm just saying from a roster perspective, you're relying on Reggie Jackson to be a running mate. No matter how you say that Paul George can be a number one option, of course he can
No.
be.
Yeah,
At least for carrying the team in the beginning without Kawhi. I get what you're saying about that. But Reggie Jackson is your second running mate for the first half of the
that's
season.
fine.
That-
For a team that's led by Paul George, we've seen that he just needs competent NBA players next to him, and they will do very well.
I don't know. I don't trust the lineup to be ahead of the Lakers, even with the Lakers having to gel together.
When you have too many, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Reggie Jackson, Marcus Morris, Serge Ibaka, who is injured every other day, Zubats,
I don't think he starts.
Batum.
I
That's
don't
who
think-
I'm rolling
Batum was
with.
pretty good last year. Batum was pretty good last year.
He's a role player.
Yeah.
But a starter?
I think for the regular season he can be fine. I mean, like I said, I think obviously they don't get off to the best start without Kawhi, but it's just kind of like when you look at the landscape of what the second half of the year is going to look like, where I think you're going to have potentially Denver resting players like Jamal Murray to make sure he's not super hurt, and if what's his name, if Jokic has to carry, then obviously they might rest him too. Obviously Denver has to rest CP3. And then if the Lakers are in a position where they're kind of coasting to, that 4-5 spot,
I just
they
don't
could
think they're
start
going to be
resting players
coasting. That was my difference between the two of them,
Yeah.
is that I think the Lakers are going to be. I could be completely wrong, and if I'm wrong, that's fine.
Mhm.
But I don't see the Lakers coasting at pretty much almost any point of this season.
I mean, I see them winning a lot of regular season games. The reason I have them finishing low is because I think they're going to end up resting a lot of their players. So,
Yeah.
specifically LeBron.
and AD.
But that being said, I think the Clippers, they're going to have their foot on the gas once Kawhi comes back, and that can help them make up ground if they're hovering around like that 6, 7, 8, where that tends to be bunched up in the West anyways. They can, if they're getting Kawhi back and he's 80% around All-Star break, then I think they can end up kind of finishing 5, just below Lakers.
I don't know, because we're also saying that every other team is going to rest their guys. If
I think
Kawhi
those
comes
top
back,
three
No, we're not,
teams
no, we're
are.
not.
I think the top
Well,
3 teams are, and they'll still finish top 3.
Right.
But if the Clippers have to go up against Phoenix, who's resting CP3, towards the end of the year, then that's kind of easy W. You know what I mean? So it's like,
I mean, we're
those types
also
of
under
games.
the impression that they're not going to be resting Kawhi after a partial tear.
I think they're gonna want to have to. They'd want to, of course, but like if they're stuck at
They'd
8
have
spot, they have
to.
no choice. They have no choice but to play them. You know what I mean?
I don't know,
They're not gonna want to play Utah first round.
And you think
If
Kawhi's
Kawhi Leonard,
people-
if Kawhi is not playing, like let's say he comes back and the Clippers never play him, like let's say 35 points a game at any point consistently in the season. If the Clippers don't do that, it's because the Clippers as a team, I think it's because their record is doing very well.
I don't know.
That's what I
bro.
think. Because if he's not, because if the Clippers are not doing well, and the Clippers don't want to waste another year of having Kawhi and Paul George, I think Kawhi would be willing
like
to
a
play the
contract year
minutes.
for both of them. Like, aren't they both like?
No, I think Kawhi signed an
Kawhi
extension.
re-upped.
Oh, okay,
re-upped.
Kawhi re-upped.
But
So
the
but
full-
PG is still on the hook.
Yeah,
Is he?
I think so.
He
Could
only has
be.
like a year left.
I'll check, yeah.
But point being, to Benny's point, that the window is now, right? Like they don't want to wait too long.
Yeah, the point being, like, if the Clippers aren't doing well, like this is
Yeah.
the scenario that I see him
Yeah.
playing more, is that if the Clippers are not doing well, he is still going to need to play, obviously, so that he can build up that match fitness that he needs. This guy he's going to be months and months without playing on a basketball court, and he's going to need those minutes not only for the team but also for his own match fitness to play in these games. And then when they get into the playoffs, he'll be more used to that. But I think if the team is doing well, then they're not gonna throw him in for 35 minutes a game.
All right, so we're wrong about the contracts. They're both re-ups until 2024.
Okay.
So they're
Well, either way, the window's now.
window's not. I mean,
Yeah.
the window's now, but it's the window for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want
Fair
Kawhi
enough.
and Paul George, and you're
But
not going to
let's,
play. I don't
let's
know,
wrap
man. I'm
up
just
with this point, so
Yeah,
because it's already like we're super.
my
long
whole
here.
point is that
Yeah.
with Kawhi's history of knee issues and his doctors always being the ones that take priority over the team's doctors of when he plays and when he doesn't,
Yeah.
I don't see
Yeah.
Kawhi playing all the games in the second half after coming back from an injury. which means I don't know. It's going to be very dependent on how the Clippers do in the beginning. And I just think that the Lakers, even still them figuring it out, have too much talent to be worse than the Clippers roster without Kawhi.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So I guess easy. Who do you have sitting at number? Right? What are we on?
5, right?
5, 6.
We're at
Number
5, and I had the
Yeah.
Clippers. So like,
Okay.
Oh, so like we're arguing like basically.
right, but
Yeah,
like my
yeah.
4 and 5 gap to me is like much bigger
Okay.
than what
Okay.
I guess like we're perceiving. it.
So yeah, I also had the Clippers at 5. Yeah, 5. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on 5 right
yeah.
now. Who'd
And
you have
so
at 5, Benny?
Yeah, Benny. Who'd
I had
you
the
have at 5?
Lakers. I had the
Yeah,
Lakers. at
Lakers.
5.
Okay, so we all
Okay.
have. Yeah, so okay, Easy and I have 4 and 5. You have swapped 5, 4.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll move on to 6. Benny, who'd you have at 6?
I had the Warriors at 6. It's gonna be very dependent on Clay.
Yeah.
But I had the Warriors at 6.
Easy, I see you fist bumping. So I guess you also had him at 6.
I have Warriors at 6, and that's even without considering that Clay might or might not be the same guy. I don't know if Benny, you have like other points about the Warriors that you wanted to bring up.
I like what they did. I like the injection of youth that they brought into the team. I think the players that they selected are good players, and they're going to be useful players for them in this run. And they're going to be useful, especially in kind of that middle part of the season where we're just kind of trotting along and we're getting injuries left and right, and we need guys that can, that they have something to prove and they have energy, this and that can take you through stretches of seasons, especially when you need to rest Clay, for example, or Draymond, or even Steph for that matter. And they still have Andrew Wiggins, who is a good player.
We'll see. We'll see about
We'll
that.
We'll see. But for now, he's there.
Yeah.
And he'll be useful for them. And yeah, I like their team. They should have made the playoffs last year. So at least in my opinion. But
I also have them at 6. So I think we're all in agreement there.
Yeah. Just a couple points about the Warriors, just because I'm a token fan. I have to bring this up.
Go for it, man. Yeah.
Wiggins with the whole vaccine thing and like San Francisco having the mandates. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Technically, that's 41 games you wouldn't be playing. So
that's
if he decides not to get the vaccine, he's going to get traded, because if the Warriors think this is a window, they're going to trade him somewhere else where he can play, and they're going to get a player who's vaccinated and can play. The one that I was talking to Umbe about, shout out Umbe through text, was a Kristaps, like a Andrew Wiggins and like a first for Kristaps. Like if both teams wanted to just like get rid of their guy, right? It could make a lot of sense. Not necessarily make them better, but it makes sense. Also with the Warriors, I do like Moses Moody a lot as a young guy. He's a very ready guy. He's not gonna step on a court and lose me games. The one that will lose me games is Kuminga. So I don't want to see him on a court in the first year, except like in garbage minutes or like in a game that we know we're gonna lose, but we just play him anyways. But other than that, I picked Warriors 6 just because it's a make or break year. At least for Steve Kerr. He can't afford another bad season with the roster he has right now. You can't have Steph Curry and miss playoffs twice. You can't do it.
Yeah, especially the level he's at right now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we all had Golden State Warriors 6. Okay, so all the California teams that are going to make the playoffs, they're all 4, 5, 6 in our list.
Kings number 1.
Kings number 1, baby. So I guess we'll move on to. I mean, that's it for Warriors, right, you guys?
Yeah. That's it for Warriors. We're good.
So for number 7, I have the Mavericks.
So do I.
Yeah. So
Same.
I feel like Luka's probably gonna ball out this year. He's definitely an MVP candidate, probably a top 3 in my opinion. So, I don't see them finishing worse than last year. And last year they finished 4. So, I don't see them finishing better than they did last year. And last year they were 4. I see again Lakers leapfrogging them, Golden State Warriors leapfrogging them. They're even though Luka's there, I don't think their roster as a whole is still very strong. So for that, I think they go down a little bit. But they make it 7. I think is 7 like a play-in seed.
7 is a play-in seed for whoever wins the it's the 7-8, and then if whoever wins that gets the 7th seed.
Right, exactly. So I think they end up being a play-in team.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So
what about you guys?
I think what would only bring them lower, I had them 7th as well, but the only thing that would concern me is I'm not sold on Jason Kidd. And maybe Luka plays better, or maybe Luka looks better. But I don't know, just from back when he was with coaching Milwaukee, I don't know. I don't think this is the best hire that they could have made, but we'll see.
I don't know, man. Poor Zaza. It's Christmas, coach. Um, it's just a tough beat for
It's
those
tough. It's
boys
tough.
with Jason Kidd. I actually got confused. I have Dallas at 8. I don't think Jason Kidd's a good coach
Okay.
personally, and I don't think it's
Yeah.
a good fit.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I'm
agree.
very tentative about that. Who I did have at 7, which you guys might have in a play-in slot at Portland.
Yep.
Portland, for whatever reason, they always make it in. Terry Stotts just got fired. They have a new coach, but I just think Dame CJ, that duo does not miss playoffs. Like it just can't. They're just too used to being in playoffs to not be, unless one of them gets traded, right? Then we're talking a different perspective. But I had Portland at 7 and then Dallas at 8. So it's not like Dallas was too far apart either. But yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I like it
I
too.
had Portland at so we had Dallas at 7. I had Portland at 8.
Yeah.
And I actually think they have a really good starting lineup. I guess whatever depends on their depth is going to be the question, right? But I like
Yeah.
Norman Powell. I like Nurkic. Hopefully, those two can stay healthy. Obviously, then McCollum, Lillard, and Covington.
Yeah.
So that's a really good starting 5. 8th seed is probably not kind. Like if they were in the Eastern Conference, obviously they'd be higher than that.
Yeah.
But they still got a really good starting lineup.
Yeah,
that
I
could
mean,
definitely
just
make the playoffs, no matter who the coach is.
agreed. I also have them at 8. I mean, just looking at where they finished last year, they ended up with 42 wins, and 42 wins would have, put them in the top 5 in the East. It would have made them actually the 4 seed. So, just to your point, Benny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree with you guys. I think one thing to look out for with Portland is kind of how Dame progresses throughout the year, where it's like we've already kind of seen a little bit of grumbling from him this offseason about being unhappy. Like everybody knows the situation there. He wants to win really badly, but he wants to win in Portland. But he wants to see more commitment from Portland. So it's kind of like a
Yeah.
give and take right now. It's a tug of war.
Yeah.
To in terms of his commitment there. So we'll see kind of if he checks out. I don't think he will. I think Portland has too much talent. That starting 5 that you just said, Benny, I think they're too good to
Yeah.
not be top 8. So that's why I have them there. But I think there is some concern.
Yeah. Just to get to the East already, what are your two playing teams for the West? Just like name them. We don't have to get into them, but just name them.
I didn't
Who do
go
you
that
guys have?
far, but I had one of them as Memphis. I didn't go into
Okay.
the.
Yeah.
It was just because I was stuck between Memphis and another team, but
Yeah.
I have
I don't really have
Memphis. I have Memphis and San Antonio. So
Okay. I'll
Yeah,
go with
I had
Memphis and San Antonio.
I had Memphis also, and I had the Pelicans. They have to do it. They have to.
I just don't see it this year with the
I don't
Pelicans. I
see
didn't
it.
really have to do it, but
Neither.
yeah,
They
it's,
gotta-
it's tough.
I feel
It's
like-
tough.
I feel like with Valanciunas, it's actually going to be low key helpful. I don't know. We'll see.
I know, but no Lonzo, that stuff. Anyway, we won't get into it,
Yeah.
but yeah, it'll
Um,
be interesting to see how that ends up. But I guess we'll move on to the East here, and I guess we'll try to move a little more quickly.
Yeah.
So at number 1, I had the Nets. I think they end up being much healthier. I agree. I know there's like a whole thing with Kyrie and the vaccine, but I just, for all these players with the vaccine hesitation, I don't see them not getting it and missing 41 games and being forced to be traded. Like I just think that's too much to ask for, even if I don't think any player is going to be that stubborn, because and now the NBA announced that the players aren't going to get paid for games that they don't play in because of that. So I think that's going to push Kyrie to get the vaccine, and the Nets, I think, just have a really good year this year.
I picked the Nets as well.
Yeah.
The same reasons you did. They got a really good team. They look like they're finally healthy. Those 3 playing together, maybe they have a little bit of a growing thing, but I don't think so. I think they're going to be a very good team, obviously.
Yeah. I have them at 2.
Okay. Who'd you have at 1?
I had Milwaukee at 1.
Okay.
It's just the continuity of the team that's already been in place. They're adding DiVincenzo back, and he wasn't even playing last year because he was injured. They added another piece too. I forget who it was. I know they added a guy. I forgot who it was.
I don't know.
They
I can't
re-upped
think off the top of my head.
everyone. Everyone got re-signed.
They lost Tucker. That's it.
Yeah, but Tucker in the finals was like awful.
Yeah.
Just awful. So like,
Yeah. Another
and
year of
plus that-
Portis.
right, like another year of Portis, you could give Portis some more minutes. And he has some upside shooting wise. He actually improved as a shooter big time last year. So I have Bucks number 1 just for the simple reason, same as Jazz, kind of that continuity already there. And then I have Nets at 2 only because there's so many question marks about not their talent, just who's playing and who's playing when. They need to figure that out. I just don't know if there's like too much imbalance of like Kyrie's playing today and Katie's not, or James Harden's playing today. Like, I don't know. Again, it's a toss up. If they're all playing, the Nets should be number one. They already had an off season together and they've known each other for years at this point outside of the court. But as a roster themselves, they still have a little bit of work to put together as well. You added Patty Mills, you have Blake Griffin who's still getting used to it. You have Millsap, you have a bunch of new role players that need to learn their role. So that's why I also have them second. But I could definitely see a world where they're number one also. Just too much talent.
Yeah.
I just think that for the players that they lost, I think they replaced them pretty adequately with maybe not like for like players, but pretty similar. Like
Right.
they lost Jeff Green, then they signed James Johnson. They lost.
I think Mills is a good addition. Yeah.
I don't know, man. James Johnson. I don't like either of those guys, but
they lost. Yeah, but I mean they're pretty similar, man. At least like to me. But
yeah,
they lost Dinwiddie and
yeah,
they lost Dinwiddie and Shamit. I don't know why they didn't really. I don't know why they traded for him in the first place. I guess if they
Shamit, I think it was just like the bait for like Cap. I think it was. I forgot what the trade was specifically.
I think he would have been awesome for them if they would have kept him. Like he's a career like 40% 3-point shooter, but I guess they signed Patty Mills, who's a good shooter as well, and he's a good playmaker, and Javon Carter, who's not bad. So I don't know.
Yeah. You still have Joe Harris there too, so I mean, you still have your shooting there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure. And then obviously Kevin Durant, Harden, all these guys.
And I think Grayson Allen was the guy you were thinking about easy for the Bucks.
That's who it was.
Yeah, who had a good year last year, and his last year in Memphis was pretty good. So I think
even Chenzo or someone goes down, you still have Grayson Allen there to balance it out as a guard at least.
Yeah,
so
scoring punch off the bench for sure.
I'm assuming both of you had the Bucks at number 2.
Yeah, I actually have Philadelphia at number 2. Oh, and then I have the Bucks at number 3. So
wow. That's probably the biggest difference between our.
I think again, Joel Embiid, who's my MVP this year. I think they go. I think they have a great year. I think getting rid of Ben makes Tobias Harris better, and I think getting rid of Ben.
We're assuming that they got rid of Ben.
Yeah, I'm assuming no Ben. I'm assuming no Ben. I think more minutes for their guards on the bench, guys like Shake Milton, who can actually like hit threes, opens up the offense, and really unlocks Embiid's potential because now he's free to do basically whatever he wants on the offensive side. I'm really high on Philadelphia this year, and I'm really obviously you could tell that I'm really low on Ben Simmons. So, I do have Philly at 2. Yeah.
I can't believe you would slander Ben Simmons. I can't believe.
I know. Who would ever do that?
Benny, who'd you have at 3? Like.
At number 3, I had the Miami Heat.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Hey, you know what? Guess what? I did too.
Oh my god, I have them at 4 for the record.
I had the Miami Heat coming in at number 3. We talked about this during the free agency pod. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this, but if I didn't, I'll say it now. I think the Heat probably had the best free agency out of any team. They got rid of a lot of players that were awful, that were useless, that had no business being on a team that just made the NBA Finals. And I don't want to go that hard into them because we also did lose Goran Dragic, who I don't want to say but they also lost Goran Dragic.
Kyle Lowry was an upgrade.
Who was a great player. Yeah, he was a great player for the city for a long time. I think 5 or 6 years. Iguodala was a nice player too. Kendrick Nunn, whatever. But yeah,
whatever.
Are those guys, and then they upgraded on guys that are going to help win now. I think this is more of a playoff team, but I do think that they'll be really good in the regular season. And obviously those upgrades are Kyle Lowry, PJ Tucker, Easy doesn't really like him, but I think he'll be useful for us next to Bam, and Markieff Morris, who I think is going to be a little underrated for us. And Victor Oladipo should be at full health, according to what we've been reading, should be at full health by like November, December. So he'll have plenty of time to contribute to the roster. Obviously Haslam, the best player on the team, is coming back for year 2000.
The leader, the heart and soul.
And Duncan Robinson got re-upped. They have the core of the team together, and they upgraded on obviously Kyle Lowry. They upgraded on a real stretch 4 that Bam Adebayo has probably never had in his time here, aside from those like 3 months that Jay Crowder was here with PJ Tucker. And they have Markieff Morris, like I said, and Victor Oladipo will be actually having his first season with the Miami Heat because he barely played when he was here when he first got traded.
Yeah, for me, the Heat it's more of like a numbers thing with the wins, where I think they got 5 to 6 wins better, and that kind of slots them in perfectly at number 4 if you go by last year's standing. I think the Nets probably win 50 games. I think Brooklyn, Philadelphia, obviously I'm high on them. You guys aren't, but I think they win over, 47 probably is the right number for them. And then Milwaukee, again, they're probably going to win more than 45 games. So, I think the Heat, they made good improvements. I agree with you, Benny. But I just don't think those improvements are worth like 7 or 8 wins. I think they're probably worth maybe 4 or 5. But that's enough to put them at number 4 in contention for number 3. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I have Heat 3. I don't think Markieff Morris is going to be a big role in the playoffs necessarily. Maybe regular season he can play a role, but I just don't see Keith being that same guy he used to be. It's not like Marcus Morris, where like Marcus Morris actually has an impact. I do like the moves that he made. Kyle Lowry for sure is an upgrade. And I just think that there's been enough guys that have an important role that have been there for 2 years now, at least together, that they have to know that this is make or break. We've talked about this on the other episode, but to me, the Heat have a 2-year window. And that's it, personally, in my opinion. Jimmy knows his role. Bam knows his role. Tyler better know his role. He better know his role.
Well, he'll be coming off the bench. I think Eric Spoelstra said that he'll be.
Yeah, he'll be 6-man. Yeah.
Duncan knows his role. You don't have Kendrick Nunn cutting into the minutes for Hero anymore. So, you Hero truthers out there, your boy better step up, because that's what the Heat are gonna need if they want to have a viable 6-man, 7-man rotation in the heat of the playoffs in the conference finals. You need 7 guys to step up.
Yeah, they're hoping for that Fred VanVleet explosion like he had in the finals after he had his kid.
It has to be
like Tyler Hero.
Dad season.
Yeah, so Benny and I had Heat at 3. Leva, you had Sixers at 2, and then Bucks at 3.
Bucks at 3 and Heat at 4. So who do you guys have at 5?
Oh well, Benny, who do you have at 4?
It's 4, right?
Yeah. Who do you
I have
guys
Atlanta.
have at 4?
I have Atlanta at 4.
Whoa.
Okay. Easy. Who do you have at 4?
I had Philly.
Yeah, Philly. Okay.
I had Philly only because
I had Philly. Oh no, I guess not that far low, but
I had Philly at 4 only because Doc Rivers teams don't fail in the regular season. It's just like just like a thing. I do think that like losing Ben Simmons helps Tobias Harris out tremendously. Just because he can now actually be the second option on offense.
This helps our
offense,
an
offensive player
tremendously. Yeah.
I don't know what it's gonna look like without Ben Simmons as a defender. I'm a little worried about that, but like there's still enough continuity on that team. There's still enough shooters now because they needed shooters for Ben Simmons. But they have some defenders too with Thibault. Maxi's getting better. He was actually showing out in the summer league. So I'm excited for the Sixers. If they do trade Ben Simmons, if they keep Ben Simmons, I still see them as a 4th seed because it's the same roster.
Yeah.
So yeah, Benny, you had Atlanta at 4, right?
I did. Yeah. I had Atlanta at 4. I expect them to carry the form that they had. So with Nick McMillan, they went 27-11. That's really good. I don't expect them to be that scorching, but I do expect them to still remain very consistent and very good, very fundamental based basketball team that's going to get them solid amount of wins in the Eastern Conference. They signed Chris Dunn to be their backup point guard last year. He tore his ACL almost immediately, I think. And they signed DeLon Wright, who's not a bad player, who could be who is a real competent backup to Trae Young, right? 10 points, 4 assists, 38% 3-point shooter. He's a good player. They brought in Gorgie Jang, who is also an okay player, good squad player. I think so, at least. He's shaking his head.
Yeah, but it's whatever.
I think off the bench, whatever. He's an okay player. He's better than what they had. He's better than Bruno, whatever his name was.
Well, they had on Kongwu, but he got injured, the rookie.
Yeah, but they had some random Bruno center, not the Toronto one.
Yeah, but he would
random Bruno center.
Bruno Fernando. I know you're talking about Bruno Fernando.
Yeah, Bruno Fernando.
Okongwu was like a really good backup center though, but he got injured unfortunately.
Right. And the rookie Jalen Johnson doesn't look that bad either. So
yeah, he's not.
They re-signed Lou Williams, John Collins. So the core is there, and they added a couple. I'm mainly focusing on DeLon right here. A couple of bench pieces that are going to help them at least in the regular season. We'll see playoffs. And again, I'm seeing too much turmoil from Philadelphia that I don't know, and I'm not the biggest Doc Rivers guy either. I don't know how
regular season handle king. What do you mean, bro?
Yeah, but we'll see.
We'll see. So that's your number 4, right, Benny?
Yep.
So I have Boston at number 4. I think they just have a much better season this year. I think Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, like it's just one of those things where Boston just kind of has up and down years, and I think they're kind of go back up on the upswing this year. So yeah, I have the Hawks just below them at 5. So what about you, Easy?
So in my ranking right now, I have Bucks, Nets, Heat, Sixers, and then my number 5 is Boston. Like you said, too much talent on this team, barring injury, of course, to be anything lower than that. Jason Tatum needs to make the jump. He was great last year. Don't get me wrong. His efficiency could have been a little bit better, but then again, all the injuries that happened around him. But if Boston plans on contending for a championship, he needs to be a top 5 player in the league this year. The window for him to be a star player, like it's starting to pass. And I know that sounds kind of like dramatic a bit because he's probably like what, 24, 23 at this point.
Yeah, I think 24. Yeah.
But for Boston to be a contender, he needs to be a top 5 player because Jaylen Brown can improve all he wants, but he's not the number 1 option. Like you can't have Jaylen Brown as a number 1 option on a championship team. It needs to be Tatum. I think he does. And I think he does make the jump. That could be, very subjective, but I think he makes the jump. He has enough guys around him that can shoot that he doesn't have to dip in his efficiency that much. I think he becomes a little bit more of a facilitator this year. I think he's going to have to, if he wants his team to be ready for playoffs by the time that starts. I think the new coach will help, a new system, a fresh start, doesn't have to worry about giving shots to Kemba anymore. And yeah, I think Boston has a lot of talent, and I don't think that I can put, like, again, Atlanta had a good run, but I don't know if, again, that's their ceiling. I don't know yet. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
They're my 5 as well.
Okay,
Boston.
Perfect. Awesome. So yeah, so I had Heat 4, Boston 5, Atlanta 6. I guess Easy, what was your number 6, right?
I had Atlanta 6.
Yeah, Atlanta 6.
Okay.
And
that's like a soft 6, by the way. I'll get into that afterward.
Okay.
Soft 6. And then Benny,
my 6 was Philadelphia.
Okay.
Wow.
Because I just don't, Mike, you made your pick assuming that Ben Simmons is not going to be there anymore.
Yeah.
Easy made the point earlier on in the podcast. I don't know who trades for that guy unless they're a really bad team. And in that case, and at that point, what are they going to offer? Because does Philadelphia, bad teams can offer picks, but is that what Philadelphia wants?
I think Philly will settle for, eventually this will drag on. And I just, in today's NBA, I don't think you hold the bag with superstars that want to leave. If a guy wants to leave, 90% of the time they end up leaving. So I see him going. Yeah, maybe it's like pennies on the dollar. But if they can get back picks and 1 or 2 role players that they can plug in, I think that helps them out. And they have a good enough team as it is right now to finish. Easy has them 4. I have them at 2, so I'm a lot higher than you guys are. Yeah. But generally speaking, I think they have a really good team still.
So because I think, and I agree, they do have a good team, but because I don't think that he's gonna get traded so soon, I think there's gonna be a lot of like tension within that locker room, and I think that's gonna bring them down a little bit.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of Daryl Morey pride that's gonna decide when he gets traded, and like whether Daryl Morey is gonna accept the fact that he's not gonna get 4 first-round picks for a guy who can only play defense and at an elite level and facilitate at an elite level, mind you, but no team contending is going to be willing to part with picks, and no team trying to rebuild is going to part way with picks. So like,
it's for Ben Simmons, no less.
Right. Like you're in that weird spot where like a team, like, I don't know, like maybe the Pelicans want to make a move, but like that doesn't even fit. But like, that's the kind of team that would like need to make a move if they want to make playoffs. Yeah. So that's why I have Philly at 4, but what number are we on, right? I think we're on 7 now.
7.
Right?
We're going on 7.
Now we're gonna say our 7s. Why don't you go ahead, Easy?
So I said Atlanta as a soft 6, only because I'm having a really hard time believing that Chicago won't be like. It's so weird thinking of a Chicago roster being in a play-in. I don't think that something about that doesn't feel right.
What, bro? No, get out. I'm recording. Time to call me. All right, go ahead.
No, you're good.
That's my brother walking in.
No worries.
You're all good.
Okay, so I can't see a Chicago roster
Yeah.
being in the play-in. I can't. It's a team of Lonzo. It's a team of DeRozan. You got Zach LaVine there. You got Boost there. You got even what's his called? You got Kobe White still there off the bench. You got Caruso. I don't know, man. Like that's a roster I have a hard time believing is in a play-in game. So I don't know. I have them at 7, but that's like a very interchangeable 7 with the Hawks.
Atlanta, right? That was your 7.
Atlanta was my 6, and what's it called? 7. I have Chicago.
7. You have the Bulls.
Oh,
So that's
okay,
your 6,
okay.
7. So who's
That's
your
my 7. That's my 7 as well. Chicago.
Your 7 is Chicago? Yeah, my 7 is also
Yes.
Chicago. So I think
Okay.
that's a pretty easy
We
fit.
should all have the same 8, right?
Man, I was kind of going.
I
back
don't know.
and forth
There's
between
like
2 teams.
2 or 3 teams that I like. I have Charlotte in there at 8. So I
Oh
don't
wait,
know.
no, I'm wait, hold up. I think I skipped a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
So
8.
who do you have at 8, Benny?
Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte. I have Charlotte in
Wow.
there.
So you guys
Yeah.
don't think Rick Carlisle can turn around the Indiana Pacers back to a playoff team?
I'm sure he could.
He could. Yeah. I mean, I have them at 9. Like I have Indiana.
They're in
at 9.
playing, right? They'll be in playing. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'd be in play. And I have them at 9, and I honestly have 10 as a toss up. I have either the Raptors or the Wizards. I can't really decide.
I don't know,
but
man. I feel like the Pacers just like that roster.
That was the
is,
team
like,
that I was
very well
debating with.
built. Yeah,
Mhm.
like think about it. You got Brogdon already there, who's a great guy. TJ Warren comes back from injury. You have Sabonis, who's getting better. Turner, we don't even know what the heck's going on. If they're ever
That's the
going to
thing.
trade
I
Turner.
don't know what the hell they're gonna do with Turner. Yeah.
They have
Something-
Karis
one of the
LeVert there
factors.
if he's healthy.
Yeah.
I just don't see Charlotte making that type of a talent jump just because LaMelo's there after one season. Like,
LaMelo
I
and
get
Liangelo.
like the
I don't even know
optic
if
of
Liangelo's on the roster.
he's not.
Oh man,
The
I'm rooting for that
optics,
guy.
the optics of Charlotte as like a high upside young team is fun. I just don't think it's like a team that is a top 8 team.
That's fair. Yeah,
This is the
honestly,
team I felt the least confident about for sure.
yeah, me too. You could put anybody in that A spot, and I believe you. So
And I have like Knicks and Hornets as like my 2 play-in teams for 9 and 10.
okay, yeah, I forgot the Knicks to be honest.
Yeah, I
so
was gonna
put
say
them-
what do we think about the Knicks? Because they
Yeah.
made the playoffs last year and they seemingly got better, but none of us had them in the playoffs.
I think
Did
other
they
teams
get
got
better?
better.
Oh,
I think
had
other
to
teams-
I think
Kemba.
Kemba Walker's gonna be good for them.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah,
shoot. It's just like there's so
And
many
so is
teams
Evan,
here that, like,
and I think Evan Fournier is gonna be really good for them too.
someone
I
has
think
to not make
yeah.
it.
The Heat,
Yeah,
the Heat,
obviously,
the Heat are going to
obviously.
leapfrog them. I think we all have Atlanta leapfrogging them. We all have Boston leapfrogging them. So it's like, you get into the jungle of like.
So we
7
have-
through
The East
10,
is tough, man. The East is tough this year.
At the bottom, there's so many shitty teams. I don't even think they're tough. I just think there's a lot of bad
No,
teams
but
at the
like
bottom.
I genuinely think they're actually good though.
I think so too.
Like I'm not saying like we're calling them bad because the East bottom teams have always been bad, but like
Yeah.
if we're talking about Chicago as the 7th seed and this is a team with Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Vucevic, we got some problems here.
It's a fair point.
Like that-
It's a fair point.
well-
they're also not that deep though after those 3
Yeah.
guys.
But like listen to this, like we're calling
we're forgetting Lonzo and players like that too, and Caruso.
right.
true.
And
That's
like
true.
think
Fair
about
enough.
it. Our 7 in the East is Chicago. Our 7, at least for me in the West, is Portland. If I had to play a game between Chicago and Portland, I'm probably picking Chicago just because like I don't trust Portland. I've seen enough of Portland.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't be super confident about it, but yeah, I mean, I'd probably pick Chicago too. I'm trying to think right now on the
I
spot,
think
I
for
would
once
I think
super
they
we're
match up
seeing-
confident.
well.
I
Yeah,
think
they
for
match up
once we're
well, I agree.
seeing
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like for once we're seeing in both conferences like there's a
More
difficulty
parity,
of
yeah.
seeing like there's an evenness to it now. I'm not saying like
mhm.
like I don't know, we have like
Yeah.
the Nets and the Lakers that we both think are going to make the finals, right? Like if we're going to go into this final segment now of who we think is going to win the championship,
Right.
we're all in the same boat that we think it's going to be Nets Lakers, right?
I think it's gotta be
No.
Nets Lakers for me.
What?
Ooh, do you have Nets and then a different team in the West? I feel like that's what you got. Yeah.
I felt oh my god, I'm probably gonna be so wrong. Like obviously, okay.
No, but go for it.
My super biased pick was gonna
God.
be
Oh baby, Heat.
Miami and Denver. That was gonna be
Okay.
my thing. Like it would be a dream for me to see Miami. Obviously, number one, it's a breath of fresh air. Easy chalk.
He's
alright,
crumbling in
Breath
his
of
chair,
fresh
yeah.
air. We saw
breath
it.
of
We
fresh
saw
air
Miami there
for
a year and a
Miami.
half ago.
Nah,
Did
it's all
we-
the
did
breath
we-
of
they
fresh
didn't
air
have-
when the Heat make
They
it.
didn't have 2 of their 3 best players.
I
But
don't
we had-
care. We saw them 2.5. We saw them 2 years ago.
Okay. Bam against Jokic sounds awesome because Jokic can score from anywhere, but also Bam can guard anybody from anywhere.
Jokic
and they're
is
kind
gonna
of like the same
cook
size.
Bam. He would eat him alive.
That's
but
not,
but
that's
Benny,
not
is that your pick? Is he Denver?
No, it's not.
Okay,
it's
you have a
not,
more
it's
realistic
not.
pick. Okay,
It's not.
that's what I want to get to.
I kept Denver, but I went with Brooklyn.
Okay, fair enough.
Brooklyn.
I mean,
Okay, so
considering all the points you and how high you have Denver, it's not like crazy.
It's kind of like Leva and Philly. How high you feel about
exactly.
Denver.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I have Lakers Nets. Barring injury.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you have winning that matchup, by the way? You have Nets, right, Benny?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I have Lakers. If it was Lakers Nets, I have Lakers.
I have Nets if it's Lakers Nets. There's a lot of talent on that court, and I think AD is going to be a huge factor, obviously. And I know that you're very high on AD, Leva, so I think that might be a reason why it could be a differentiator for you. I just don't trust Russell Westbrook in the finals.
Oh, so you both had Lakers Nets?
Yeah, we both have Lakers Nets. Yeah,
I have
he's
Nets,
picking Nets, and I'm picking Lakers. Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't know how I feel about Westbrook in the playoffs yet because I haven't seen him on a team like this necessarily. But for example, and I also don't know that James Harden's actually going to be good in the playoffs. Let's clarify that also.
On that team, he probably would be.
We'll see, because he's yet to prove me right.
That's true.
But I've seen Kevin Durant as the star player. I know he can win. I've seen Kyrie as the second option, and I know he can ball out in the finals. And I just trust more a team that is offensively oriented necessarily in the finals. Again, we always talk about offense or defense, and you do need a good defense. I just think that your defense, I think it's more about defense being more opportune. Like your defense needs to be an opportunity-based defense where if you see that a team's making a run, you need to get a turnover from them to just reestablish your lead. I don't know if the Lakers have enough reliable offensive power that's efficient enough to keep up with the Nets. And again, it's very subjective, but I just like the Nets roster built more for consistent scoring for 7 games than I like the Lakers. Because again, they have some scores. I just don't know if they have efficient from distance scores necessarily.
So I kind of have almost an inverse take because I think you're saying, Brooklyn's offense is going to be great throughout the regular season, and then in the playoffs they can up their defense, right? And so
just more opportunity. We've seen teams in the finals have horrible stretches of defense, but then all of a sudden in 3 possessions they get a block and a steal, and it's where did the game go?
Agreed. And so for me, I kind of have it flipped for the Lakers, where it's I think defense is going to be the strong suit all year, and then they're going to have that opportune offense once they get down to it, especially, in a 7-game series. I think they have a lot of intelligence on that roster where they can figure it out. So that's kind of why I'm giving them the edge. I think, champions, they tend to be top 10 in both offense and defense throughout the year. And I think the Lakers will probably do that. So that's kind of where I'm giving them the edge, is that just in the playoffs, I think they're going to be able to, over the course of 7 games, I think LeBron will be able to figure it out with Russell, with Rondo, with Vogel, all those guys, AD. And I think we'll see kind of what we saw a couple years ago where they beat Miami. It won't be a sweep, obviously, or a 5-game gentleman sweep, but I guess it was 6 games. Anyways, I think
it was really a gentleman sweep.
I think it'll be more competitive. But ultimately, I think the Lakers win it. So our finals predictions are easy Nets, me Lakers, and Benny, you have
Brooklyn
Nets
and the Nuggets.
Nets over Denver. Okay.
Nets over Denver.
Okay,
that's
gotcha.
Bold. That Denver one's kind of bold, but I know you're high on them. Everybody has someone that they're high on.
Yeah, we all
last
have a
year.
wild card. Yeah.
And last year for me, it was the Suns, and at least they made the final, so I feel more confident in making this.
That's true. You have a track record now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, definitely stuff some hot takes to keep an eye on. You with Philadelphia, Benny with Denver. I guess Easy,
I'm not really feeling anybody right now.
Yeah, you don't have a dark horse.
Don't you really like Rudy Gobert in Utah?
Don't you love Rudy Gobert?
Yo, Benny, I might have some problems with you after this podcast. I don't know,
bro. Even though we agreed on almost every pick that
maybe Easy and the Bulls. I don't know.
I'm not. The Bulls. I don't know, man. I can't trust the Billy Donovan team either. So
nah, they're not going to win a championship anytime soon. But
that's why I had him 7th. I probably would have had him higher, but I don't know about Billy Donovan either.
Yeah. So pretty interesting.
We'll see,
I think that does it for us. It's a pretty long pod. Might split it into 2 maybe. We'll talk about it afterwards. Maybe. But but yeah, that does it for our preseason awards. And our kind of playoff standings. Who we think is going to win? 19, 20 days away from the season. It's going to be a fun one. So stick with us. We'll kind of cover more news as we go along and get into a rhythm here. So I think that does it
All
for
right,
us.
y'all.
Thanks, everybody.
Later, y'all.